she accepted, despite the fact that she barely knew him. He brought Elizabeth back to America. They had 5 children, and Riis settled the family in a house with a large garden in Richmond Hill, Queens. Riis succeeded in fulfilling every immigrant's dream of middle-class respectability, and this is perhaps not that descriptive, but one of the most charming pictures of his family snapshots that he took. His house, as you can see in the background, and on this large property they had, that's his daughter Katie, with her pet goat, and you can see Riis's shadow in the front where he's holding the camera. Riis finally found his way in America as a newspaperman. In 1876, he landed a job as a police reporter for the New York Tribune and later for the Evening Sun. The daily police beat provided his base salary for 23 years until 1899. This was the era of yellow journalism, in which New York's many daily papers competed for screaming headlines and sensational stories. Riis explained, The police reporter on a newspaper is the one who gathers and handles all the news that means trouble to someone. The murders, fires, suicides, robberies, and all that sort, before it gets into court. Police reporters shared an office at 301 Mulberry Street, across the street from police headquarters in the middle of a 6-ward slum. For 8 years, Riis worked the night shift and became boss reporter through sheer hard work. He also honed his storytelling skills, although his articles often read like tales by Hans Christian Andersen, a fellow Dane. But he insisted they were true fact. I cannot fict, he claimed. Next to a clipping in one of his scrapbooks, Riis wrote, This was the last Christmas story I wrote for my paper, the Evening Sun. They laughed it to scorn in the office and made no end of fun of it, and yet, of all the stories I have written, I like it best. It moved me more deeply than any of the rest. So, in this picture, which is also in the library's collection, that's Riis back there, essentially waiting for news from police headquarters across the street. And this picture is kind of fascinating because, and it's on view right now in the exhibit, because of this wall of photo reproductions from magazines that covers their wall. In 1884, Riis moved from the night to the day shift, and as he said, my eggs hatched. He began by covering the meetings of the 1884 Tenement House Commission, which convened at police headquarters. In this way, Riis learned of the community of philanthropists, engineers, and architects who aimed to change the lives of tenement dwellers. He became a student and advocate of the latest ideas in housing reform, which soon expanded to include education, public parks and playgrounds, public health, and immigration policy. In 1887, Riis read about the German invention of flash powder, in which a powerful burst of light could illuminate scenes photographed in the dark. He had the idea that he could use photographs to show what his words could only tell. Although he had no intention of photographing himself, and at first he didn't, this was a truly revolutionary idea. About this picture, 5 cents a spot, Riis wrote, I recall a midnight expedition to the Mulberry Bend with the sanitary police that had turned up a couple of characteristic cases of overcrowding. In one instance, 2 rooms that should at most have held 4 or 5 sleepers were found to contain 15, a week-old baby among them. Most of them were lodgers and slept there for 5 cents a spot. There was no pretense of beds. When the report was submitted to the health board the next day, it did not make much of an impression. These things rarely do, put in mere words, until my negatives, still dripping from the darkroom, came to reinforce them. From them there was no appeal. Riis first showed his photographs in January 1888 at the monthly meeting of the Lantern Slide Committee of the Society of Amateur